I run an almost fully automated content production operation for my business. I run an online PMO with hundreds of active members and the design and development of new tools and processes for my business, for myself, for my students, and for the companies that I work for. And I do all that just by myself. The only reason any of that functions without everything falling apart is systems. Not complicated systems or expensive software, just repeatable processes that run the same way every single time. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what that looks like with two real examples you can apply to your own work immediately. So you can finally stop wondering what creating systems really means and actually create them in your own life and in your own work. Before we begin, you should know that I've been an IT project manager for the last 8+ years. I've worked across multiple different companies, worked remotely from Mexico, from Colombia, from Peru, from Argentina, and I've even made over $300,000 in a single year working as a remote IT project manager, working for multiple contracts, multiple companies at the same time. And none of my success would be possible without systems. And I don't mean that in a vague or motivational sense. I mean it literally. The reason I'm able to get so much done without me reinventing the wheel every week is because I took the time to build repeatable processes around everything that I do. And so that's what this video is about. This video is about what systems actually are, what they look like in practice, and how to start building them in your own life and in your own work. So have you ever heard the word systems thinking, or hey, create systems in your life? Has anyone ever gave you that advice? See, it's been packaged and sold as something very sophisticated, something that requires a special mindset or a special kind of intelligence in order to execute. You'll hear people talk about feedback loops or interconnected variables or emergent behavior and convergent thinking. And if you're not familiar with that language, it's easy to assume that this is something that lives in that world of consultants, of executives, not something that applies to your day-to-day life. So that's why many of you guys treat systems thinking the same way, assuming that it's not really relevant to you. And in doing that, you miss one of the most practical ideas in life and in business that can help you tremendously. Because stripped of all the jargon, systems thinking is just this. It's if you do something more than once, you can build a repeatable process around it. That's the whole idea. A system isn't necessarily a piece of software or an organization chart or a complex flow chart. A system is just a sequence of steps that produce a consistent result. It runs the same way every time. It doesn't depend on you remembering how to do something or how you did it last time. And it doesn't degrade when you're busy or when you're tired or when you're distracted. It just functions the same way each time that you do it. And once you see it that way, you start noticing that you're actually surrounded with opportunities to actually systemize your life. So here's the simplest way that I can describe what a system actually is. A system is anything that you do repeatedly that has been given a defined structure. That's it. Before a system exists, a task exists or lives in your head. And then you just kind of figure it out as you go. And you make slightly different decisions each time that you're doing that thing. And it takes longer than it should. And then when you hand it off to someone else, they have to figure it out all over again because nothing was ever written down. After a system exists, the task now has a home. There's a sequence, there's a standard, there's a clear start point and a clear end point. And anyone who follows the steps will get the same result. That's a system. And so the difference between someone who's constantly overwhelmed and someone who seems to operate at a level that shouldn't be possible for one person is usually not talent or hours worked. It's how much of their operation has been systemized. And this is important. You don't build a system by sitting down one day and designing the perfect process from scratch. You actually build it by doing something once, noticing what worked and writing it down so you don't have to figure it out all over again the next time. That's the whole thing. So for example, my YouTube workflow, right? I'll walk you in this video. My workflow just started as me making a video and then making another one. And then as I was making more videos, I noticed a pattern in what I was doing and I started to formalize it. And now it runs the same way every single time, all the way from idea to upload without me having to make a single decision in the process or about how the process works. That's what systems thinking actually looks like. So my actual system for my YouTube content production workflow, on the surface, making a video looks like a creative process, right? You have an idea, you make the video, you record it, you put it out. But if you're doing it consistently at any kind of scale, treating it like a creative free-for-all every single time will eventually break you. And so now every video I make follows the same pattern, same defined sequence. And it starts with first researching the idea, reviewing what's already been published, what topics fit my channel strategy, what angles I need to cover in the video, or what angles haven't been covered yet. And so that's not something that I figure out fresh each time. There's a defined process that I follow for how ideas get evaluated and selected, and they're all tracked inside of my Notion dashboard. And so from there, even the script goes through a structured development process. So hook first, then section by section with supporting points, and then each one is reviewed before moving on to the next one. So it's not just me writing a full draft in one sitting. It's a deliberate sequence of steps that I follow. And then once the script is approved, then we can move into recording. And so I have a process around how I actually record my videos, how I set up the camera, how I set up the lights. And once that's done and it's recorded, then I submit it to the editor. And then the editor edits the video and then sends it back to me, and I give the thumbs up or final approval. And then there's also a process in terms of how I actually upload the videos to my YouTube channel, following a consistent strategy for writing my descriptions, writing the titles, and creating the thumbnails. All of it is systemized so that it's repeatable. Each time I do it, I get the same results, and I reduce the amount of time it takes me to get out YouTube videos. And so what needs to be very clear here is that every step has a defined output, and every output feeds the next step. Nothing is random, and the consistency in the process is what makes it scalable. I'm not having to make new decisions every time or every week or every time that I start a new video. The structure already exists, and I just simply follow it. And once I follow it, I get a YouTube video at the end. That's a system built from a repeatable process that was formalized over time. And so by doing that, I'm now able to get out 1-2 YouTube videos every week. The second example I want to give you is my system for activating new members inside of our live PMO environment. Now, this is my program where people like yourself get real hands-on IT project management experience inside of a live PMO. And the system doesn't start when someone joins. It actually starts before they join, before they ever hear about the program. It actually starts with ads to build awareness. The ads are built around a specific problem. The fact that many smart, capable people don't have any real IT project management experience. And the idea that you can study project management for years and still not be hireable because you never actually worked inside of real projects. And so the ads that I send out point to this problem. It doesn't sell anything. It just makes people aware of the situation that they might be in. Then from this ad, they get invited to a live PMO walkthrough. And the walkthrough is a structured presentation, same format every time, same content every week. And it covers what a live PMO is, how it operates, what members actually do inside, and what they get out of it by the end. By the end of the live PMO walkthrough, someone either sees themselves inside the program or they don't. Then if they decide to join, if they see themselves inside of this environment, they move into a 5-step onboarding process. And each step covers something very specific: how the program is structured, where everything lives, what tools they'll be using and why, and what they need to do first, second, third, and their first week, second week, third week, and what their first month looks like. The sequence is already defined and it doesn't change. Every new member moves through the same path consistently and in the same order, which ensures the same experience for every member that joins our live PMO. And because the starting point for everyone is the same, it's consistent, they get up to speed at the same pace, regardless of when or how they joined. So this system goes from awareness to walkthrough to decision to onboarding, and it's 4 defined stages that each one feeds the next. And so that is what a system looks like when applied to growth and people operations inside of this business. So when I was first starting to produce content consistently for my YouTube channel, for my social media, I had no system for it. Every video was its own project. Every time I had an idea, I would just kind of start recording it from scratch. And I had no way to like categorize the files or where I would actually save them. And it actually started to become a mess very quickly. And I realized I'm going to need a proper system to actually track everything that I'm building, recording, so that I can pump out much more content much more quickly rather than 1 or 2 pieces of content here and there. And so that's actually what led me to build out a fully structured content production system where everything now, again, as I mentioned earlier, is tracked inside of my Notion dashboard, is automated from idea to scripting to recording to editing to submission to receiving the final draft to uploading it to YouTube. And so this is a consistent process that I can now repeat over and over again and pump out YouTube videos very, very quickly and very easily. When I wasn't doing this, the cracks would show really quickly. I'd lose track of which version of the video I was working on or which version of the script I was working on. I don't know which one was the final or which one was the draft or which one was just like rough work. Files would end up in the wrong place. I'd give the editor wrong instructions or different instructions every time and get back inconsistent results. So small things like this, they can start to compound over time and eat up a lot of your time, and they were eating up a lot of my time. So one day I just sat down and I just mapped out everything that I was doing. And here's the key. I didn't map out what I thought I should be doing. I mapped out what I was actually doing when a video would come together well. And I realized there was already a rough pattern there. I was just executing it inconsistently. And so by writing it down and formalizing the steps and creating a folder structure that every video would use, and standardizing the naming conventions and defining what each handoff would look like, even though it took maybe just around 2 hours to get to define all that, from that point on, the process stopped being something that I had to think about and stopped being messy, and it just ran on its own. And every video moved through the same stages, lived in the same structure, followed the same standard, and the output got much more consistent. And the time it took also went down significantly. And I could now focus on the actual work, the ideas, the content production, the delivery, instead of the logistics around making videos. And so those 2 hours of work that I would spend in trying to make a video, and now I save those 2 hours every time that I'm bringing out a new video, and I can spend that time in improving the quality of my videos or using it in other areas of my business. So that's what building a system actually looks like. It's not like some kind of big redesign or something that's like elusive that you can't actually do. It's just taking something that you already do and giving it a defined structure. So here are 3 things to take away from this video. 1, look for repetition. So any task that you do more than once is a good candidate for being systemized. And you don't need to systemize everything all at once, right? Just start with whatever you do most frequently or whatever causes you the most friction in your day-to-day life. That's probably where a defined process will give you the most immediate return. Number 2, write it down before you actually optimize it. The first version of any system doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to exist. So map out what you're already doing right now and give it a defined sequence. Remember that you'll be able to refine it over time, but you can't refine something that only lives in your head. And then number 3, build subsystems inside your main systems. So once your top level process starts working, look at each step, whether it needs its own structure, or if it can be optimized, or if it needs a naming convention or some kind of folder structure, or some kind of template that will help improve the overall system. So the more systems you have within your larger system, the less cognitive load you will carry because the decisions will have already been made. So if I were to wrap up this video, systems thinking isn't a concept that's reserved for like consultants or operations leaders or people running large teams. It's simply just the practice of making things repeatable. Every time you take something you do regularly and give it a defined structure, you're thinking in systems. Every time you write down a process instead of keeping it in your head, you're creating a system, you're building one. And every time you create a standard that removes a decision that you'll need to make about something that you're doing, that's also thinking in systems. And so that's the whole thing. Hopefully these 2 examples that I've given you, my content production system and how I onboard new members or bring new members into my live PMO, have given you some more clarity on how systems work and how you can actually implement them in your own life, in your own business. Hopefully you now understand what systems thinking really is, and the mystery around it has been demystified. And if nothing else, I appreciate you watching this video. Give me a like, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. And if you are interested in becoming an IT project manager or thinking about becoming a project manager, because project managers think in systems and they're always trying to systemize things in their projects so that they can work more efficiently and get more things done in the project, and also to save up their own time so they can do other things while they're managing projects. I invite you to join our live PMO community where you can actually experience thinking in systems, gain real IT project management experience and exposure, manage projects, and just be more confident out there in the world. So I invite you to join. Click the link below, and I'll see you on the next one.